All right, we have another great congressional candidate today, John Hsu. You will see I am solo, sadly, so alone today. My partner in crime, my co-host Seth, he had a work conflict. In earlier episodes, he mentioned how he's part of the gig economy. And when the gigs happen and they come up, you got to take them. So I'm on my own today, but I'm really looking forward to this conversation. John is running for Congress in New Jersey's 6th district. That's in central New Jersey. True progressive. He was a Bernie delegate. He's really on the ground, even in his role as a private citizen, helping out the community, helping out nurse workers who went on strike. We'll talk about that in this episode. Just can't wait to get to know him better. And I will not see you on the other side because I'm not going to do the outro because I don't have my buddy this week. But please enjoy this conversation with John Hsu. John Hsu, so excited to have you here on Left Out Loud. Thank you for joining the podcast today.
Oh, it is my pleasure.
And I feel like it's especially exciting. It's almost like we have breaking news here because I saw on your socials a couple of hours ago that you were officially
Mhm.
on the ballot for
Mhm.
New Jersey's 6th district.
Yes, yes. So we collected 1,598 signatures. We needed 500 to get on the ballot. Friday was the deadline to challenge that. So we are officially on. I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations. That's great. And so why don't we start with, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about your background and
Mhm.
sort of what motivated you to run for Congress?
Oh, sure. So I was a Bernie Sanders delegate. I was uh, the coordinator for the campaign in 2020 in Middlesex County and Monmouth County, which encompasses my congressional district.
Mhm.
So I traveled to Iowa, traveled to New Hampshire for those campaigns. In my local Democratic Party, I was the chair of the Progressive Caucus in my town, and I was also the chair of Our Revolution, New Jersey. And that was a group that came out of the Bernie Sanders campaign, and
Mhm.
we helped the nurses in their labor strike, local labor strike.
Oh,
We
wow.
helped, yeah, that was a big one. We helped some steel workers in their local strike. We helped stop a power plant in a environmental justice community, and yeah, some rental work and
So
just a lot of good
you've been
activism work.
extremely active in politics, it sounds like, for quite a while now.
Quite a while, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And you ran in 2024, correct? For
Yes,
Congress
yes,
in the same district.
yes.
So tell me, like, has your thinking changed at all in terms of your approach to running
Mm,
this time around? We just had
mhm.
our last guest, Victoria Broderick, is running in Tennessee, and she ran in 2024 against the incumbent. She's
Yeah.
doing it again in 2026. So just curious, has anything changed from your perspective in the way that you're running this time around?
Mhm. Yeah, so I ran in 2024 because of Palestine, what's happening in Palestine.
Hmm.
There are a lot of mosques in my district, I think either eight or nine. And I was visiting one of the mosques for community outreach. One of the leaders started talking with me, and he was expressed concern about our congressperson, who's actually probably the second worst person in the House of Representatives when it comes to Israel and funding Israel. And
Hmm.
yeah, so he asked me to run. It was a short campaign. Unlike this time, I had only 2 weeks to collect the petition signatures.
Wow.
But it was easier. It was easier 2 years ago because the requirement was only 200. But that was not too hard for me because of my connections with our revolution and all the political work that I've done.
Hmm.
But I had to hustle, but it wasn't too hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So fast forward 2 years later, I decided to run. This time I started last April. A big difference. So started more than a year ago, or almost a year ago,
Hmm.
and it's running on similar issues. However, things are have gotten worse, I think, in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And you know, having a computer science degree, I can talk about AI a little bit more.
Hmm.
My congressman's completely quiet on AI, and we can talk
Wow.
about, yeah, it's really bad. And he's on the AI committee.
How is that possible?
I don't know if he misspoke or I don't know if he was lying or misspoke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. So we just put that out there on our social media. But yeah, so this time we have more to talk about. And besides AI, Iran, he's not
Mm-hmm.
talking too much about it.
Right.
All the Democrats are delaying the war powers resolution vote, and he's part of that leadership class that doesn't he might not be the one on the committee blocking it, but he's not talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
talking about like what we can do, right?
Right.
So no, he's definitely not doing everything in his power to keep us out of war, out of a ground invasion with Iran.
Yeah.
And it's very, very concerning.
It is concerning to everyone. I think there's very little support for this war in
Mhm.
Iran to begin with, and putting troops on the ground. I mean, I don't think there's really any appetite for that in America. So your incumbent has been in Congress, I believe, since 1988. Is that right?
Yeah, so 38 years. If he wins, it's going to be 40 years.
That is
So
incredible. How do you feel
yeah,
about term limits?
I support them.
Yeah,
You know, I'm a little divided because, I like Bernie. Uh,
sure.
yeah, at times I like Elizabeth Warren. Sometimes I don't, right? But, there's some good Congress people, but I think uh, at this point, I think we should like even maybe 20 years for the House. Like
Hmm.
that's a pretty long time already.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
very long time.
yeah, like compared to 40,
Right.
that's half the time, right?
I
So
feel if you're doing this for 40 years, just by default, you kind of have to lose touch with your constituents, and as you said, things that are, new issues that wouldn't have been issues when he first entered his seat or took his seat in Congress, such as AI and things like APAC, right? There's more awareness around
mhm,
all of that now than there probably was when he first took his seat. So it just feels impossible to believe
mhm.
that people can continue to be effective in Congress over a 40-year period.
That's a great point, and I think that's definitely true. I think, he's not talking with people who are opposing all the military aid and the wars with Iran. There might be some donors that donate to him that
Hmm.
support this thing. I'm not sure. But um, I on the ground, it does feel a bit nerve-wracking to bring this up, but I talk about Iran. So far, I've only met about 4 or 5 Democrats that support the war with Iran.
Right.
Uh, and I talk about the military aid to Israel.
Hmm.
And, you know, that's a very divisive issue, but actually on the ground, yeah, I found like so many people have opposed it, and a lot of people don't know that he was voted for all the weapons the last 2.5 years.
I feel like it's divisive at the government level. I feel like from a constituency perspective, it's not that divisive. I think most of us are
Maybe.
opposed to that military aid, especially now that it's gotten us into this situation in Iran. And like I said, there's just the awareness of that grows, I think,
Yeah.
more and more.
Yeah.
Do you think now that you are on the ballot, do you
Hmm.
feel as though, and you have a Democrat incumbent, you're running as a Democratic socialist, a
Hmm.
progressive,
Hmm.
do you feel like Democratic primaries are kind of structurally tilted towards the incumbent that makes it more challenging for a new person to run?
I think so. Yeah. So actually, I've heard that the Democratic parties in many states, they don't endorse candidates until after the primary.
Hmm.
In New Jersey, we do. So we have a convention and they have the endorsement vote. So, they do a good job of putting people that they know, like friends, some government employees, local government
Hmm.
employees, that type of thing. And they build a relationship with the incumbent over the years. So a lot of the mayors and council people, they'll like him, and so that's one structural uh, hindrance.
Right.
Um, yeah, but there's well, I mean, there's the fact that he gets a lot of donations.
Hmm.
60%, yeah, 60% of his donations are from corporate PACs.
Right.
39% are large donations. So that's a
So he doesn't really
impediment.
have to canvas. He
Yeah,
can do ads and kind of
do
coast and
do that. Yeah.
wait for the election. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you're out there canvassing all day, every day, from what I understand. You just got back from
Yes.
canvassing. It is a
Yes.
Sunday. We are recording on a Sunday, and John was not available until later in the evening because he didn't want to interrupt his canvassing time, which is really respectful. It is a full-time job, but your previous full-time job was as a software engineer.
Hmm.
So, and you had kind of a firsthand seat to the
Yeah,
dismantling of the Department of Education when Doge came to town. Tell us
that's
a
right.
little bit about that and how it impacted you.
That's right. So I worked for the Department of Education on a contract for the Department of Education, so not directly for them. But obviously, I lost my position last April, and I worked on the nation's report card and international testing. So they completely cut international testing, so we're not going to have that for the next couple of years. So whenever you've seen in the past in the news, U.S. scores compared to other countries,
Uh-huh.
that's that was cut.
Gone.
Yeah,
Just
gone.
gone.
Yeah, and
Wild.
under the under the Department of Education, there's a National Center of Educational Statistics, right? And they had a staff about I think 13, 14. It was cut to two. So what they do is they make sure that our work is accurate, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's data science, it's accuracy is very important. One of the most important things that the US government does is collect data, help policymakers make informed decisions.
Sure.
So that was a big cut. I mean, I feel like our department isn't as crucial as like say, you know, maybe the Department of Energy, like if they're looking,
Right.
handling like the nuclear waste, that type of thing.
But 13,
But it's
14
still
people, John, is not
it's
exactly
still
excessive. It still
yeah,
sounds a little bare bones.
yeah, it was, I mean, it was enough for what they had to do. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because they contract out the some of the work to my company and other companies.
Then cutting that down to two,
Cutting it down to two is ridiculous.
impossible. It
Yeah,
sounds like it would be.
that's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously cutting the international testing, that means less work for them to have to handle,
Oh, true,
right?
true.
So, but still, it was too much. Like the nation's report card is congressionally mandated. It's a big undertaking. So two
Mhm.
people I don't know how many staffers they have right now, but having those staffers, such few staffers handling that is a big undertaking.
And
Yeah.
I think we've all seen a sort of degradation of
Mhm.
data.
Yeah.
And, as they have made all of these Doge cuts, it becomes more difficult to not only get that data in a timely manner, but trust the data,
Mm,
because the
exactly.
experts that were there previously are no more. It's really
Exactly.
a shame. So, as a progressive, you
Mhm.
are really involved in environmental
Yes, very
activism,
involved.
right?
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about your policies or platform when it comes to the environment?
Yeah. So, I bought an electric car early. I've come to the conclusion that that's not our solution.
Right.
Public transportation is a big part of it. We are suffering here actually with NJ Transit. It's completely underfunded. It's a combination of a local issue too, or a
Mm-hmm.
state issue. One of our county commissioners is on the NJ Transit Board, and they voted for rate hikes, but the service has gone down while they're building a new multi-million-dollar office building, which I don't think they need.
Right.
Um, so a lot of those positions, they're integrated with our local Democratic Party. In our state, the local county parties are more powerful, are the center of power. Other states is the state parties.
Okay.
So our local party has a lot of connections to NJ Transit. So that's an issue. And I believe in actually I believe in free public transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we could achieve that, I think that would help a lot. Young people take public transportation to go to their internships.
Yeah.
Let's cut down. on the wear and tear on the roads, the obviously the emissions. Let's encourage that because
Yeah,
it's not just
absolutely.
paying for, yeah, yeah, it's not just paying for it because there's residual benefits
Hmm.
to really support public transportation, and that's just one aspect. I have more, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
I could talk more.
and I
Yeah,
agree with you. I mean, I look at like Zohran Mamdani, who wants to create sort of free
yeah,
public transit.
love that.
Not many people in New York City own a car.
Yeah,
I think there is definitely a great template there that could be replicated across other states if we choose to prioritize it, right?
mhm,
And I think that's the hiccup is how do we get that at the top of the list of priorities
yeah,
as it relates to environmental action?
yeah. That's one.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can share like so many more.
please
Okay.
do.
Well, we helped stop a local power plant that was in environmental justice area.
Mhm.
We did a great job with that. And I'll just mention one other thing because it relates to my congressperson. We had a park that we were trying to save. It was sold to the county for half price by the federal government. So
Mhm.
we had to go through the federal park service. Well, they had to go through federal park service to get this approval to change the park into like a hybrid, for-profit sports center. So
Yeah.
they added 14 artificial turf fields is the plan. It's going to cost $60 million, and
60
uh,
million?
yeah, because they have to flatten the land, cut down the trees, and put in all the artificial turf and like have drainage. It's a huge piece of property.
Is this for professional sports, local
No,
sports?
for it's going to be for soccer teams and soccer tournaments, that type of thing.
Wild. That
Yeah,
is
so
an incredible
and the
amount of
local government said,
money.
"Oh, we can't handle the booking. We're going to outsource the booking as well." So I tried to pose that, and in that, like, I went to Canvas. Got people to write letters to National Park Service,
Yeah,
um, and we I think we were able to generate 500 letters because it was a short time.
sure.
Um, but my turns out I found out my congressman called the National Park Service to get this approved, and that we're not happy with that, obviously.
I'm sure there was some incentive there to get that done because why would you even want to destroy that land?
Yeah,
And again, that's another thing that we've seen with this administration and the impacts on public land and wanting to privatize public land and make it for profit. And it's all really sad.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Um, so getting back to kind of your background as a software engineer,
Hmm.
I have worked in tech for many years.
Okay.
So I'm curious, tech adjacent. So I do like agile transformation work, but
Okay.
I'm curious, being a software engineer, how does that sort of shape the way you
Oh,
view
wow.
government and bureaucracy? I imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I imagine you must see opportunities for improvement.
Oh, sure. Okay. That's all right. That's a tough question. Like in my role in the government,
Hmm.
I was at the end of it. I was reporting on data. I was helping create the software to report the data. Um, so I was not too involved with that aspect of it, in terms of like the administrative part of it. But I think, computer programmers,
Yeah,
they usually think logically and like, oh, if this, with their, then this, and then,
exactly.
um,
And
I,
trying to streamline and automate and
yeah,
make things more efficient and predictable. And all of that kind of runs counterintuitively to the way our government is sort of designed.
it can be. Well, here's what I found. Like, just allow way the things that are, the way things are run.
Mhm.
There's a reason for it. Sometimes it's a good reason, but then there's residual effects that are negative, and then like it becomes a whole big thing. Uh, it's complicated. I think it would take, you know, people who are willing to like review the whole system and maybe make a
I
diagram out of
know.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like, oh, okay, yeah, I see why we try to do this, but it's not working well this way. So
Hmm.
let's reroute that, right? So
Exactly. Exactly.
but it's Do you know what? I'm not gonna. I don't want to put down the government. It's a hard job. It's a huge
Yeah.
undertaking. Would it be good to take a step back and reevaluate processes? I think
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. And I'd like to see, more minds like yours approaching the government with just a completely different, we tend to see a lot of former business executives and
Mm,
attorneys get into
yeah.
politics. I think it's nice to have sort of a diverse background of people in politics that can bring all of their particular expertise into making things better, making things run better and smoother and more efficiently.
I agree. Definitely.
So you were, I want to make sure I get this right. You were like a delegate for Bernie Sanders in
Mhm.
2020, is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And talk to me about, obviously, I'm sure you're still a big Bernie fan.
Mhm.
And he has been sort of a beacon in terms of progressivism in the
Mm.
Democrat Party. Is there anything that you think Bernie has gotten wrong? Or is there like a mantle to be picked up from this sort of new wave of progressivism?
Yeah. Well, one thing we were confused about, a lot of people were confused about was he didn't really fight too hard for the $15 minimum wage.
Yeah.
And he promised he made he made Joe Biden promise in his concession conversation with Joe Biden, he made him promise that they would pass $15 minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
So why not, hold him to that?
Yeah.
Uh, his stance on Palestine was not the greatest, but it is better than most of the senators. So I wish he was better on that.
True.
Van
Yeah.
Hollen, I really like Van Hollen, and I'll just say like one thing about Bernie supporters that I really like, they are free thinkers, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't worship the man because
Right.
we like something special about him. We love his policies, and we love just today I saw him have a video of making fun of the tax cuts for the taxes to billionaires and
Uh-huh.
how much they would have. Like, oh, Jeff Bezos would only have $200 billion. How is he gonna, feed his family with that much with that little
Only
money?
200 billion. Oh no. Poor
So
man.
it was he delivered that pretty well actually.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, so I did like that about him. Is there anything else you know, I guess, there was not enough talk about Medicare for all when
Mm-hmm.
the ACA subsidies were getting cut.
Yeah.
I think there's strategic things. I don't know what's going on there. I would certainly want to push for them. That seems like a good strategy move. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah, those are our leverage points. There's
Yeah.
leverage points that we need to use, I think, and I'm not sure if Bernie
I
is hitting
agree.
all those. So
Yep.
yeah,
I agree. But I mean, I think he's been
he does some.
effective. He's been
Yeah.
effective at pushing the party further left.
Oh, he
Um,
has.
and and
Yes.
he and he connects with people. I mean, his ideas are
Yeah.
great ideas and they benefit everyone. And, I think maybe there's a stigma around the word progressive or
Mm.
or for some reason, it
Hmm.
doesn't, people don't relate progressivism to things that actually benefit them in real
Mm.
life already and
Yeah.
can benefit them more if we just embrace those types of policies going forward. Okay, so back to, you were involved in a nursing strike.
Hmm.
Tell me what happened there.
Hmm.
What was that all about?
Yeah. So the nurses at Robert Wood Johnson, New Brunswick, they decided to go on strike because of understaffing.
Okay.
There's a nurse to patient ratio or patient to nurse ratio,
Hmm.
and there's too many patients per nurses, and that's very stressful.
Yeah,
Nurses are nervous about making mistakes and getting blamed for it and losing their license,
sure.
or obviously, losing lives as a result of understaffing. So they decided to go on strike for a better contract and for mandates for ratios. And during that time, I started to spend a lot of time with them, maybe oh, 10, 20 hours a week, depending on the week.
Wow.
yeah, so I got to know them really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are canvassing with have been canvassing with me
Oh, that's
and
great.
and all
And
that.
and
Yeah,
what was the outcome of all of that?
yeah. So we were able to pass resolutions, local resolutions, 30 of them, supporting the nurses. We went down to Trenton, that's the capital.
Hmm.
Um, and I spearheaded, actually, it was my idea to do the resolutions, and then I helped train them for lobbying. And because this particular nursing union, they are not as political as some of the other bigger ones. So
Sure.
I went down there to help them. We meet up with the bigger nurse unions, and
Hmm.
I got to know those leaders as well, and they were really happy that I was helping them. Yeah, so we got a lot of senators and state senators and assembly people to get on the bill. Unfortunately, they told me that it was the furthest the bill has ever gone.
Okay.
The chair of the chair of the health committee, he had a good hearing. He had a really good speech about it, and the hospitals had their people talk about why it's not needed.
Hmm.
But we pushed it forward. I think we
And
could have done more.
sometimes that's
Yeah.
how you make progress. It's these little iterative steps, might not have worked out this time, but you just push it forward, and
Mhm.
eventually the momentum makes it happen.
That's what we hope. So yeah.
Yeah.
So well, and then they got the contract, and then
Okay.
yeah. So well, their contract is expiring soon again. So
Back to the fight.
it might be back to the fight actually.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And it's interesting, and I think that's great that you did all that. I mean, spending so much time with those nurses must have felt great for them to have that support. And I think Democrats, by and large, we do that, right? We
Mhm.
definitely see injustice in the workplace,
Mhm.
particularly with unions. We always try, and I think Dems historically we care about unions. We care about championing people that are being taken advantage of, not having the support that they need in the workplace.
Mm.
And despite all that, John, it feels like we've lost, Democrats, I should say, have lost some ground with
Yeah,
working class voters. I have a hard time understanding the correlation between the two, but do you have any thoughts on why that may be?
sure. Sure. So, well, I coach basketball, rec basketball,
Mhm.
for fun. It was because I was at a polling station, and one of the other person there was a ref. He invited me to coach basketball. So I've done it for 2 seasons. And one of the parents was a union worker, and Republican. So I do think um I do think there's a perception of the Democratic Party focused on culture issues and
Mhm.
things like that. When I was talking to this union worker who's a Republican, one of the parents, he, you know, I was trying to convince him about Medicare for all. I think he was buying that, and he was all for the 4-day work week and all that.
Sure.
So yeah, I think you know, and I think we've seen that in other states. I'm not the expert on that, but like I know like West Virginia was a very blue state and very union heavy state,
Mhm.
and they lost that because
Yep.
apparently the Democrats didn't help them, didn't help the working class and the unions, and
Right.
there's been a shift away from that. Like, Chuck Schumer, he talked about like, oh, for every working class person we lose here, we're going to gain one or two in the suburbs, something like that. So I think there has been an emphasis, at least from the leadership and the establishment, away from that. And there are good Democrats that want to help others,
Mhm.
help the working class, but it's a big tent, right? So
It
it's not,
is.
not all of us are pulling in that direction.
Right. Yeah, it is a big tent, but I do think as a party,
Yeah.
I'd love to see us get back to
Oh yeah,
kind of
definitely.
our roots, our foundation, what we were initially designed to do, helping middle class, working class Americans. So I love that you're doing that locally in your area. I think that's really commendable.
Oh, thank you. It's really nice of
Yeah,
you to say that.
absolutely. All right. So, this podcast, we are all about platforming progressive grassroots candidates. I
Mhm.
ask this question to every guest. I already know the answer, but for the audience, do you take any corporate PAC money?
Oh no, we don't.
Do you
No,
take any
no, no, no,
APAC money or any foreign
no,
influence money?
no
Okay.
APAC money, no influence from the foreign governments.
Perfect. And, I think that might be the way forward for progressives is to talk more about the money of it all, right?
Mm,
Because progressives, we have sort of this threshold, and it's like when it comes to big money, we reject that by and large.
yeah.
And I feel like most American voters would
Hmm.
appreciate and respect that,
Yeah.
knowing that their vote for you or for other progressive candidates isn't a vote for corporations, isn't a vote for foreign interests when it comes to voting on issues that could negatively impact them. So maybe from a messaging perspective,
Mm,
hopefully we can get around that as a movement of, you know, I can't imagine any voter that would say,
yeah.
nope, I want the person that's taken money from
Yeah.
corporations.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think there's a wide range agreement on that.
Hmm.
I can share two stories from today.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
Uh,
them.
we were canvassing up a dead end road, and on the way back, the first someone we canvassed, uh,
Hmm.
opened the door and, "Hey, John," and she asked me, "You don't take APAC money, do you?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I
Wow.
do not. I do
I
not."
love to hear that.
And she
People
said,
are thinking about that now.
she said, "Yeah,
And that's a progressive thing. Republicans don't talk about it. Establishment Dems don't talk about it.
yeah."
That's purely a progressive
And
mindset.
she said, "Oh, I looked up your website and I saw it. And I just wanted to hear you say it." I'm like, "Yeah,
That's
okay,
so
no
cool. I
problem."
love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
And the other story, one of our teams, we have a couple teams. So one of our teams was going one direction, and me and my partner were a little bit behind as we went forward.
Mhm.
The person came out and called us again. Oh, actually, he said the same thing. Yeah, it was just,
It said
you
the
know,
same thing. You don't take
yeah,
APAC
you
money.
take APAC money.
Yeah.
I said no, and he was so excited.
I think that's great. I
So
think
that
that's
happened
great
twice
that
today.
I think it's
Yeah,
great that voters are thinking about that and they're
yes.
paying attention to candidates based on the fact that they are rejecting APAC money, corporate money. And again, like I said, that's unique to progressives. No one else is
Mm,
going to talk about that because it just happens and we don't talk about it, right? We just take the corporate PAC money, they take the APAC money, but they shy away from being public about that.
yeah,
So I love that people are thinking about it in your area and asking you about it, even if they've read it, they just need to make sure that
that was
it's
funny.
real.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
yeah.
Okay, well, before we wrap up, tell us what support do you need right now, John? Do you need donations? Do you need volunteers? Do you need all of the above? Also, by the way, before we get to that, I love your social media. Like the
Oh,
look of it. Is that a volunteer that's doing all that for you? It looks fantastic.
well, this is someone who worked with me in our revolution and
Okay.
is helping me now and started as a volunteer, but we're we're paying her because
Yeah. It's a lot of
she's doing too
work.
much work. She's doing
It's
too
a
much
lot of
work.
work.
Yeah,
But it looks
it's
great.
amazing.
I think it
Oh,
looks
thank you.
fantastic. Yeah.
Wow, I'll let her know
Really
that.
impressed with your socials.
Yeah, that's Hannah.
Um, what's her name? Hannah?
Hannah, yeah, shout out to Hannah.
Shout out to Hannah. You're doing a great job. And they're the kind of the faces behind all of this. It's important to shout them out because she's definitely doing a good job with that.
Oh, thank you.
Um, so okay, back to your campaign. Tell us where you need help,
Mhm.
how people can help you, how to find you.
Yeah. So johnshuforcongress.com. You could fill out the form on the website there. Even if you're not ready to donate, obviously we love donations. Small donations are great.
Mhm.
$5, $10, anything. You can just sign up for our updates to see what we're up to. You'll see how grassroots we are and how much how much work we've done in the community. And I think it's a really nice thing to see. And or you can follow our Instagram as well. That's good. That's a way to see see what we're doing and get all the updates and see the wonderful work that Hannah's doing.
It is wonderful work,
Yeah.
and you guys are making really frequent updates, and they just are aesthetically pleasing. I'm visual, so I just like the way it looks. But yeah, that's great. So John Hsu for Congress, I think you can see his name behind him. Check him out. Give what you can. Small dollar donations are going to make all the difference in these primaries and in these midterm elections. And it's just been such a pleasure to talk to you today. I really
You
appreciate
too.
you taking
You
the
too,
time.
Allison. Yeah, this was my pleasure. I really enjoyed this conversation, and it's nice to come back and like reflect on
Yeah.
reflect on things. So I appreciate the questions.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't have much time to do that because you're working
Yeah,
so darn hard on
working
this
very hard.
campaign. And I see it. I see
Yeah.
it on your socials. I'll continue to follow you. Stay
Uh,
connected. If you ever need
thank
anything,
you.
please reach out and be happy to make you a friend of the show.
Thank you, Allison. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Have a great night.